The one piece, I think the most important thing is, well, there's going to be a two-part answer. One is,
Oh, so we're going the two most important things. No, you're good.
yeah.
Go
One
ahead.
is, um, you need to have expectations of hearing no, and things might take time, and things may not work out as you have planned as fast. So you need to take it out of your head that I launched this year, and we have ARR of 10 million. Like, you need to just reassess, and not lower your expectations, but kind of streamline your expectations based on real metrics of of how long things really take.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Matthew Tompkins. And Matthew started his journey. He went to high school at School for the Arts, got into some modern dance, and then afterwards went into community college and got a tech or a bachelor's in, I think it was technology and something related to women's wear. And I'll let him fill that in a bit. Afterwards, I went off to London and worked for a couple different magazines, and again in fashion and women's wear, and then started developing credibility. Came back to Baltimore and then was was a stylist, I think, for some e-commerce magazines. Applied to work at Under Armour a few times. They said no, so he showed up and they gave him the job anyway, and then started working for a few other businesses doing stylists. COVID hit, things changed. Took a year to decide what he wanted to do. Started a business in e-commerce that it revolves around donating a part of the profits, and also started a personal shopper business, which he'll get into more as well. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Matthew.
Thank you. That was a good introduction. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
I do my best to can condense everybody's lives into a few simple minutes or a few simple seconds. So but with that, why don't we rewind and unpack a little bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started in high school or going to school for arts.
Yeah. Well, it seems so long ago, but yeah. So my journey started at School for the Arts. I went to Catholic school before then, and I went to a School for the Arts, and once I was like, oh wow, creative people. My mom was an artist, but we really didn't have like creative. I didn't really know like what creative people did, or that you can get a job being creative. So that was kind of the first part.
Hmm.
And so it kind of opened my eyes up to, you can use creativity to turn a profit in some sort of way. So you gave a pretty good description. So after that, I went to a community college to kind of get my feet wet, because I had my eye set on this college in New York called the Fashion Institute of Technology, but I had no idea how to sew. No idea how to sew. So I went there, and people often say bad things about community college, but it was great for me,
Hmm.
especially as foundational. And I remember my first time trying to work a sewing machine, it just wasn't going well. It went well for a while, and then all of a sudden, I came back after having, like, I was just like, this is not for me, and things started to slowly progress. But I wanted to be a fashion designer, and in fashion, um, I think the broad scope of it, most people think, oh, just become this huge designer. But there's lots of different things in fashion that people can do that are not so glamorous. Everybody needs clothes, so you can
Hmm.
imagine the scope of jobs that go into that. And the probability of someone becoming a Tom Ford or a Calvin Klein is almost the probability of someone becoming a Michael Jordan, if you can imagine that. So then I went to New York, and I'm from Baltimore, so I think New York is not a shock, but it's kind of, you're definitely gonna hit the ground running. but it opened my eyes up to a daily grind and work ethic that I was really attracted to. And it also kind of set the pace for the rest of my career of an expectation on hard work.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and the Fashion Institute of Technology is a super difficult school to get into, but also one of my pattern making teachers, I thought she was absolutely crazy because she was just so vicious. But and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe an instructor is this critical and just like she was just not for any BS. But
Hmm.
I learned so much from her, and I also learned how to toughen up quickly and how to provide a excellence for my work that had she accepted anything, I probably wouldn't um, have developed so quickly. So made some great connections in New York, um, but I left New York and I came back to Baltimore, and this is why connections are so important. You just never know. Always stay open and friendly with all different types of people. So this person called me randomly that he was he I met him in San Francisco, and he ended up being um, a student when I was at college, and I went back to Baltimore, and he called me and said, "This fashion editor has a job for you." And I was like, "Shut up!" And so instead of having to go through the ranks, I got this assistant job, and I just worked my tail off. And so let me give you an idea of what an assistant fashion stylist does. So you have photo shoots that you see in magazines or you see in campaigns or commercials or whatever. And somebody has to go get all of those clothes and not in a car because you're in New York. So it's either you have to trudge a suitcase back all up and down the subway and it's like 90 degrees. And usually it's for free. And you work like 16 hours. So I did that for about 3 years and I would sleep on people's sofa and I was that dedicated. But that level of experience and dedication gave me the tools that I wasn't getting hired for, so I can build the clout in order to get hired at that level.
So now, just as a maybe as a quick unpacking that a bit. So when if I remember our conversation before, and I always caveat if I put words in your mouth that are untrue, make sure to correct
Yeah.
them. But you're working as kind of that fashion assistant. It was I think it was for e-commerce or magazines or for magazines in general. And oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And so now, as you're doing that, I think that you decided that you wanted to work for Under Armour, or you wanted to go down that route, and so you started applying there, and yet kept getting rejected, but you weren't going to let those rejections get you down. So walk us through a little bit. First of all, what kind of led you to decide Under Armour was a place you wanted to work, and then how did you, once you made that decision, actually or make that come true?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Evan. So I've always kept in contact with my mentors, and one of them, because I was just so appreciative to have such great professors, and because they really changed my life, especially being an inner city kid. Growing up with not much money. So one of my old professors from community college reached out and said, Under Armour's having an open house. So, send resume here. So I sent my resume and I had already applied through the portal. No one was responding to me. I designed a whole collection. No one responded. So something said, just show up. So I showed up and it was me and this guy from Ohio. And they said, um, and so the woman ahead of the woman who was ignoring me um, said, "Yeah, come in." And they went upstairs, they checked out my portfolio, and then they gave me a test right on site. They said, "Here's a bunch of clothes, do this." So I
Hmm.
did it, and so I got hired as an editorial stylist. And she went over the person's head who was ignoring me and hired me, so that you can imagine the tension. Um, coming on board with someone who obviously didn't want me to work there, but I stayed. I outlasted that person, and I was at Under Armour for about 4.5 years, and during that time, I went from not having any idea of the scale of working for a headquarters, and so setting the tone and pace for visual standards for all of their e-com shots. And then I started working doing their team sport. So I moved up where I began training stylists and um, kind of leading that. And then I ended up doing team sports. So that was amazing. And I think the lesson in that is um, keep knocking on doors.
Hmm. No, I think so. And I think that, a lot of times people, you set your dream, and then the first time you get told no, or they don't open the door for you, people say, well, guess it wasn't meant to be. And sometimes, you do have to call it quits if if it really is not meant to be. But more often than not, if you keep knocking on doors and keep trying, you'll find a way to accomplish the dreams, or to get that in place, where if you had given up, it would have never come true. So now you
Yeah.
did that. You worked at Under Armour for for a few years then. And then I think you also got into doing some styling work for other businesses as well. Is that in line, or at the same time, or was that after? Kind of walk us through how you got to that.
Yeah. So, Under Armour at the time, and I think they still do, they were bringing in, they had an art director that was the lead art director for Macy's and um, Victoria's Secret. So one of the art directors did like the big campaigns that you saw with the runway and the television. So that he was like with Tyra Banks. So he brought in a lot of big photographers, and so being in that closed circle, I was able to work and network. And then, people don't stay at these big companies, so they leave, but you still have those relationships. But from New York, I had made connections and with and stayed friends and kept those relationships with art directors and photographers and people who were in charge of really big magazines. Um, so I continued to work both of them because I wanted to stay relevant in the editorial fashion world. But eventually, through my work at Under Armour, I was able to get an agent. And so what an agent does is they have the clients and basically they take all the legwork out and they represent you. They do take a percentage. But I was able to work for Ralph Lauren. I was at their global headquarters. and
Hmm.
um, and that was an amazing opportunity. The precision that they shot stuff was at such a higher level. So I got to learn that. I also got to work for Peter Millar at their global headquarters. Um, I got to work for Family Dollar, and people think Family Dollar, they don't shoot stuff, but Family Dollar sells clothes and they shoot catalogs, and so they
Hmm.
need people. Those people were the only people who bought me lunch. Yeah, and they're like, yeah, well, Family Dollar, they're cheap, and they weren't cheap, and I will always remember them. And from there, I did a campaign for Omni Hotels North America. I also lectured. Um, that was a way to make money, and um, and I just kept it going. So when you're an independent contractor, I'm sure you kind of have to keep all these relationships happening. And so that's what I did.
No, it sounds like it was a good path, and always, again, those connections that came into play, and were fruitful. Now you were doing that, or worked with Under Armour, and then you worked with others, and then kind of with a lot of different people in different industries. COVID came along, kind of changed things, put it or life probably on a different path than expected. So walk us through a little bit as to how that impacted you, and kind of what path that set you on.
Yeah. Well, I think COVID changed so many people's lives, but I know for me, I felt an overwhelming need to help people. So I had started volunteering. How it all got started was I was volunteering at this nonprofit, helping homeless recovered men or young people, primarily males, who had recovered or got into situations where they needed clothes. So this particular nonprofit, it's called Sharp Dressed Man, and they would be kind of like the cherry on top of the cake. Once you got recovered, they would give you a suit for your interviews or trousers or something. So I worked for them, and in one of the conversations, this homeless guy, he was one of the facilitators, but he was all cleaned up, so I didn't know he used to be homeless. But
Hmm.
we were talking about art, and he said that he was at the baseball game about 3 years prior to a conversation, eating out of a trash can, and people walked by and no one helped him. And so at that moment, I just thought, you know, how dare people? And so I wanted to, I said, I have to do something. So I didn't know what to do because everybody wants to do something, but few things people do are actually impactful for long term. So that's when I decided to use my design skills and um, start an e-commerce company where we dedicated a portion of our profits to helping a number of different nonprofits. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
So now, so you set out there and said, okay, you know, because a lot sometimes you do a business and it is or just for altruistic reasons, and hey, it's going to be giving back, and other times you're saying, hey, it still has to be a business, still has to make money, but I'm going to do some good with that business. It sounds like it was a latter kind of when you were setting up this e-commerce business. Was it purely just altruistic, or was it also, hey, this is what I want to do longer term for a career, for a job, as you're kind of going through that COVID transition?
Well, I think I think it came down to I heard a lot of people complaining about things that happen in the world and homeless people or this or that. But and I didn't want to be a complainer. I wanted to actually be a solution. So and like other business models like Amazon Smile, where um you can buy stuff and shop normally, and the business donates a portion. And so at scale, that could really help people. So it was more of a, I know there's people out there and they want to help, but they may not be the people that want to give $1 or roll their window down or pack an extra lunch to give to homeless people. But if they could buy something and then kill two birds with one stone, buy something and shop normally, and then we do the donation and we take the legwork out. I felt like it
Hmm.
was something that could be more of a lifestyle and like a decision and a choice that the large majority of people could adopt.
No, I think that's awesome. And I'll just as completely side, we didn't talk about it before, but I always love giving to those that are homeless. I don't like giving money, or I don't like because I never know where that money is going to go, how it's going to be spent. Probably the vast majority of time it's spent well, but I always kind of felt uncomfortable. So what we always do, and I love involving the kids and the family, is we get what we call homeless bags. So in other words, it has like gift card to McDonald's, it has socks, it has, you know, deodorant, it has a toothbrush, and we do something fun and special with, you know, it's Christmas time. But that's what, you know, I think that there is a lot of people that want to give, and yet they have to figure out how they want to give, or kind of what that looks like and what they feel comfortable with. And I think that that, you know, what you set up definitely gives people that opportunity to give and to pursue that. Now, alongside of that, if I remember, you also started doing kind of a, I can't remember, AI assisted or personal shopper business, and kind of doing
Yeah.
that alongside, where you're kind of doing that as two businesses, you know, contemporary with each other. Or how did you get into kind of that personal shopper type business?
Yeah. So that's Curate Company, and we launched Curate Company about 5 months ago. And Curate Company came about because we were looking. I started seeing trends, and and I'm sure in your emails you get all these emails, and you're always being sold to by these clothing companies, and you open it, and you're like, I would never wear this. Like, what is this? This is not even the right gender. Um, and so I felt the same problem, and I would go on websites, and I'm like, wow, like this dress is pretty, but I wish when I went on this website, it was curated to me. And I'm sure there's certain colors that you would never wear, right? You probably have certain ingredients in your wardrobe, and you pretty much buy the same thing. So I said, how come these retailers are not selling to us like that? So we came up with software that businesses can integrate seamlessly into their e-commerce shop, and any person that comes on the website would have a curated shopping experience.
Hmm.
So we've been working really diligently on that. And so what kind of aligns both businesses is just helping people. And so if we can make, everyone needs clothes, and I talk to a lot of people and they don't like to shop. Um, so it's basically having a personal shopper, but taking all the work out of it.
Huh, that's awesome. No, it sounds like a great thing, and probably something I don't know that I would. I was gonna say probably something I use. Now, problem with mine is my wife likes to shop, and I probably in my closet still have clothes that I had from high school that I still like and are still in
Wow.
good condition. And, you know, or I don't know, good condition at least from my front. They're probably not in style, but I can see definitely how kind of I don't think I would ever want to do a personal shopper that was actually, a live person,
Right.
or that I'd have to sit down, but having some of that direction of, hey, here's what the style I do like, here's what I've been sticking with since high school, but now here's kind of what you can, if I want to go and update the wardrobe a bit, or expand it, or change it up. I think that definitely makes sense, is a great opportunity as well. As you're continuing forward, are you continuing to kind of pursue both of those businesses, and is that kind of the direction that you're headed with things, or kind of catch us up a bit as to where everything is at today and where things are headed?
Yeah, so Global Art and Style pretty much runs itself. That's a good thing about that. That doesn't really take as much legwork. But Curate, I have a co-founder, and that is, we have developers and um, machine learning experts, and that does take a lot more work. So I kind of split my time between, now it's 90% Curate company and then 10% Global Art and Style, because the way we set up the business model was such that we fill orders. And so I'm the main designer on there. So I've designed enough products that will go kind of into the future. Um, and for Curate company, that's something we work on every single day, especially as you know, artificial intelligence. Everything is speeding up so quickly.
It is absolutely, and completely unrelated. We have a platform we use for some lead generation stuff, and we've integrated artificial intelligence. It's an awesome tool, and makes it a lot better user friendly system. And yet, first thing I did was go out and file a patent on it, just because it's such a, everybody is using it in so many different applications, so many ways, and it just seems like it's going so quickly that you have a very narrow window to, a lot of times, within which you can carve out that space of that area with AI. So I definitely agree that there's a cool place to be, and certainly interesting how it continues to evolve. Well, now as we've kind of reached the present day of the journey and kind of where things are at, it's a great time to transition to the two questions I always like to ask at the end of each episode. So we'll go ahead and jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
Well, I think the business decision would have been, from an ethics standpoint, I didn't believe that you should hire slow and fire fast. I believe if somebody took the time and you spent a lot of time with them and getting to know them and they were invested, that you shouldn't fire fast. But I have learned now that you should fire fast. And as Brian Tracy says, you should fire as soon as you think about it.
Hmm. And I think that it's always easier said than done. I completely agree with
Yeah.
you. Hiring and firing, I think both hiring and firing is one of the hardest things as a business owner, or startup, or even a big business, but especially startup and small businesses you're getting going, just because, one, I think everybody has the conception of, hey, I can read people, I know people, and everybody thinks that, and yet it's, even if you can read people, it's still a hard thing to know, hey, the difference between you can get along with them versus a good worker versus a good fit for the business. And then, but then you always feel bad because you get to know the person, you start to become the friend, and then you're saying, hey, this might not be the best fit for us or the best business, and now you're having to figure out, now I have to let them go, and it's never a fun thing. And you always get a much different perspective, or when you're letting someone go as opposed to being the person let go. And so I think that that's always a easy area to make a mistake, but always a great one to learn from as you go along. Second question now that I like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Oh, well, the one piece, I think the most important thing is, well, there's going to be a two-part answer. One is,
Oh, so we're going the two most important things. No, you're
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. One
Go ahead.
is, um, you need to have expectations of hearing no, and things might take time and things may not work out as you have planned as fast. So you need to take it out of your head that I launched this year and we have ARR of 10 million. Like, you need to just reassess, and lower your not lower your expectations, but kind of streamline your expectations based on real metrics of, of how long things really take. And the other thing I would suggest is you have to find something within your center that grounds you, so that you're able to kind of have like an inner thermostat that kind of brings you back. And usually that's your why and why you started.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And, I think it's always funny, no matter, it does almost, with very rare exception, I was going to say never, but there's always an exception, that everything, or as a startup or small business, everything takes more time, money, and effort than you ever in plan. And then there's people who says, but I gave me all this cushion. And then it's usually like, yep, and you're still going to need more time, money, and effort than even the cushion that you think you have. And yet everybody thinks they're the exception again to the rule of, yeah, but I know what I'm doing, or I have it planned out and everything else. And I think that going into that, just knowing, hey, doesn't mean that you should expect that it's going to take you 20 years and that you're going to fail, you're never going to make any money. But I think you also need to understand that there are always things that you encounter that are going to be different than what you anticipated. And it's not like the movies or the TV show or that, where you have a great idea, you get it going in a week and you're a millionaire by the next week, and you only work 1 hour a month and everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Just not reality. So I think that's a great piece of advice and a great takeaway. Well, as we wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Of course. So people can view our product at www.curiate.cc. And if you want to reach me directly, please reach out at contact@curiate.cc.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, make a new connection, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that,
Awesome.
thank you again, Matthew, for coming on the podcast. It's been it's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguests.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review, helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help with your patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup, your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Matthew, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
All right. Thank you.